on January 11th. I'm calling to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for January 11th. We have all commissioners present, and therefore we do have a quorum. Let's have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4 is a citizens' comment period. You did have to sign up for this. If your comments are related to the public hearing, Oh, okay, great. Nobody signed up. All right. Then we will move on from that. We will move on to number 5, business items. Approval of the minutes for December 14th. I take it everyone has read that and provided any comments for edits to Marissa prior to this meeting. If so, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay, the minutes are approved. Moving to item 5B. Items applicable to the Planning and Zoning Commission discussed at the January City Council meeting, including possible update on FM 2252 sewer project and text dot FM 2252 expansion. With regard to the expansion, in case you have not been out on FM 2252, as of yesterday, the traffic switch over the bridge at Evans is now functioning. So, and I avoided it yesterday, but I did go through there today, and it was quite, it was quite easy. I was surprised when they moved all the traffic to the bridge, one lane going north and one lane going south, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I thought they were gonna, but they closed the other 2 lanes, so that was pretty interesting, but it worked very smoothly, so. Of course, it wasn't traffic hour when I went through there, so who knows what it's like at 7 or 8 o'clock. Okay, let's see what else we have. We have the, you received in your packet a report from Tri-Hydro. Has everyone had a chance to review that? Okay, I think it's important to know that TxDOT, in the FM 2252 TxDOT project, TxDOT has started the roadway design for the intersection of FM 2252 and FM 3009. The city engineer has the project limits for the relocation of the water main at the intersection of FM 2252 and FM 3009. You can read, all these little things on here, but it also includes in this memorandum the fact that we recommended to City Council to approve the Master Development Plan, and the fact that Planning and Zoning submitted for approval is in this memo as well. Are there any questions regarding the Tri-Hydro memo?
As I recall, this is something new. We haven't had a report in the past from them. Is this something we can expect, or? I found it helpful.
This is just the report that is in the city council packet, and I don't know that I've done it every month. There's been prior months that I've put it in y'all's packet, just since y'all do talk about updates on the 2 projects.
Okay.
So I try to put it in every month, but I know for the fact there have been a few months that I haven't. So this is just what was in the city council packet at the last meeting.
Okay.
We do find it helpful. Thank you.
Chair, I do have a question on the Schoenthal Road drainage study. What is the limits of that drainage study? Nancy, if you could.
That is going to be looking at the drainage coming out of George Ranch, crossing Schoenthal into Forest Waters, both at the low water crossing,
Okay.
as well as at the intersection of Schoenthal with Bat Cave.
Is there some impact
There's
into forest waters?
impact into forest water, so
Okay.
that's what the study is about.
Okay. Thank you.
Item that I wanted to bring to your attention that was discussed in city council and actually doesn't just apply to planning and zoning, it applies to all commissions, but I think it's worth us hearing it again in case you weren't able to watch the city council meeting, or I don't think anyone else was there, but maybe you were there, yes. But it was pointed out again that the responsibilities of a commission and the fact that we get our agenda several days in advance, maybe even a week in advance, and it is our responsibility to make sure that we understand what's on the agenda, review the packet, understand the items, and so that we can be fully engaged and conversant in the items on the agenda. The other thing is that it's our responsibility to make sure that when we send something to city council, that we have vetted it the best that we can, and because we are their research body, if you will. So I just thought I would bring that up once again to make sure that, and also for the benefit of anybody else who's possibly wanting to join our commission. We do have 2 open slots, but this commission has its homework to do every month. So I just thought I would bring that up once again. Okay. Anyone else have anything, any comments? All right. Next item, 5C. Let me just go ahead and read this before we open a public hearing. Petition by Brenda L. Elliott for a variance to ordinance number 13/2018, Section 5, Residential, 5.1.3.4, to allow the parking of a recreational vehicle, RV, in a portion of a driveway within the exterior side yard of the property at 9404 Azalea Gate, further known as Lot 4, Block 2, Garden Ridge Estates, Garden Ridge, Texas. Parking of an RV is only allowed in the rear or interior side yards. At this time, it is 6:08, and I'd like to open up a public hearing. So anyone wishing to speak on this matter, you may make your way to the podium.
And for anyone that wishes to speak, if you'll just turn the microphone on when you get to the podium and say your name and address before you speak, and then come and sign in with me when you're done. Thank you.
I'm Bill Pohl. I live at 21016 Hickory Bend. I'm opposed to the variance request in that it effectively changes the Garden Ridge ordinance on trailer parking. This ordinance is a very reasonable and appropriate requirement that helps preserve the appearance of Garden Ridge neighborhoods. We have lived in Garden Ridge for a little more than a year and really appreciate the efforts the city makes to keep Garden Ridge the beautiful place that it is. Granting this variance seems to be taking a step backwards and sets a precedence that could, and I think likely could, result in more trailers being parked in front of homes. I don't think that is what Garden Ridge residents want. When we moved here, we had a trailer that we brought with us. I checked the ordinance and found that we couldn't meet its requirements, so we paid a local commercial facility to store it. Seems to me it's as simple as that. You know, when you live in a community, you follow the rules. The location of the subject trailer isn't even a quote-unquote close call to meeting the ordinance requirements. It sits on a front driveway. Also, I don't believe that the trailer belongs to the property owner. I appreciate you offering the opportunity for neighbors to be aware of this variance request and to allow us to offer our comments. Thank you.
Hello. Dawn Hatch, 8377 Twisted Oaks. I am in opposition to grant this variance. The reasons are twofold. At the December 21st City Council meeting, council members and citizens voiced their concerns that ordinances need to be followed because what good are having them if they aren't followed? Also, according to council members, granting variances in principle sets a precedent that others will come before this commission and expect their variances granted, leaving way for a house, travel, or utility trailer of any type, semi-trailers, boats, motorhomes, and campers to be placed in the front yard or the driveway. A perusal of the findings necessary to grant a variance to zoning ordinance worksheet, which you all have in your packet, and answering the questions set out in the worksheet indicate there are several reasons why the commission and the city cannot grant the variance. Allowing this variance in order to store a travel trailer because it saves someone money is a form of subsidy, and it might slightly devalue properties around it. De facto cost is a subsidy. In other words, if the homeowner wants to help their friend out, perhaps they can pay for a storage unit or put the RV in their backyard. The city should not have to subsidize that cost by granting a variance. There are several storage centers around the area of Garden Ridge. Lockaway Storage on Schoenthal Road. Cube Smart Self-Storage is on FM 2252. And Garden Ridge Self-Storage is on FM 3009. Please don't grant this variance. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Brenda Elliott. I own the property now. It used to belong to my parents. They were retired here. They didn't know anything about this variance or this ordinance, and I didn't know anything. My friend, who's a retired veteran, said he needed a place to put it. I said, fine. It's not hindering anybody's stop sign whatsoever. It's on a side driveway. It's not the front driveway. It's on the side driveway that faces Hickory Bend. It's not, I've gone through the whole area where I've seen, it's in your packet what I gave you, that there's RVs that's parked down on the side, that's on grass, on the easement. I could do that on mine. I've been informed that you can't have it in front of your house, even though it's behind gates. I've seen that here in Garden Ridge. I've seen RVs all over the place that's down the driveway. It's not even close to the main drive in Hickory Bend. My retired friend was involved in an accident. He had to get another truck. He got another truck, and he had to have his engine rebuilt all over. He just got it. And then his transmission. He had problems with the transmission. He has to have 1,000 miles on that engine before he can even pull it out of that driveway. My truck cannot pull it. It's not a fifth-wheeler type of truck. So I have to wait right now until he can get 1,000 miles on that brand new built engine so he can move it. But it's not bothering anybody. I've seen neighbors walk their dog down the street without a leash. I haven't complained. No, I have never seen a city that neighbors don't talk to neighbors to find out what's going on. The first thing they do, they call Garden Ridge Police. When did that stop happening? When I was a kid growing up, I would go next door and mow an elderly neighbor's grass without even asking them. Just mow it because they are too elderly. No one has done that in this neighborhood. They don't care about the neighbors. They don't care about themselves because no one talks to each other in Garden Ridge. As a disabled vet myself, I have never seen anything like this before, where people I have even gone and asked the person who filed it and asked him 3 times, did he file that report? He said no to me. And when we had a meet with this meeting, I says, is that bothering you? And I told him what was going on. He says, no, it doesn't. So why does people do what they do? I don't know. But right now, it's not bothering anybody. This is not Germany, World War II.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry, your time is up. Now, I'm wondering if, because she is the a person that asked about the variance, could she actually continue stating her case?
She can, but I think the better time to do it is after the public hearing is closed.
Okay.
Or before, but we're past
Okay,
that.
all right, very good. All right, anyone else in the audience? Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, if not, we'll close the public hearing at 6:16. Oh, I'm sorry, Marissa, I forgot you had comments.
Yes, I do have some written comments that were submitted by people that were either unable to be here or they just wanted their comments to be read. First one is from Hilbert Leakey Jr., 21025 Hickory Bend. I am opposed to the requested variance for the residential property at 9404 Azalea Gate. The recreational vehicle in question should be stored in the back of the residence as the ordinance allows. As I go through our neighborhoods, I do not see anyone in non-compliance with this ordinance. I am opposed to the variance as I do not wish to see a trend toward this endeavor. The neighborhoods have been well maintained and I do not wish this to change. If the back of the residence is not available, then there are many storage facilities in close proximity that can accommodate the RV. Ralph Griffith, 9409 Azalea Gate. I am Ralph E. Griffith, an adjacent property owner at 9409 Azalea Gate. Myself and my family are firmly against the proposed variance to the existing ordinance. Johnita Evans, 9405 Azalea Gate. I have lived here over 20 years in this house that my late husband, Arthur Evans, had built in 1990. We have always abided by ordinance number 13 that RVs and boats must be parked in our enclosed backyard after 3 days, permitted temporarily. When a friend visited us in an RV, we had them park in our backyard. It's a good rule that we have encountered in many places we have lived during our Air Force career. Cynthia and Ricky Baker, 21029 Hickory Bend. We have been Garden Ridge homeowners since 1987 and have always appreciated the beauty of our city. The standards the city has established has been in the best interest of all residents and enables us to maintain our property values. We are certainly open to changes that make our city a more idyllic place to live and/or are vital to our city infrastructure and financial stability. It seems as if the current request would do nothing to increase the value of our neighborhood. Therefore, we would like to see that the ordinance already put in place continue to be upheld. We would be willing to allow our neighbor at 9404 Azalea Gate to continue to park her renter's RV at her home under 2 conditions. 1, if the RV could be moved behind her privacy fence. 2, if the RV were parked in the driveway no more than 30 days per year. Thank you for considering our opinions and working to keep our city beautiful. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Again, no one else wants to speak? Then we will close the public hearing at 6:19 p.m. If the commissioners have questions from Ms. Elliott, we can ask her to come back to the podium.
I'd like her to continue saying what she was starting to say.
Ms. Elliott, if you'd like to come back to the podium. And you can continue making comments or take questions from the commission.
It just seems strange, just because the property is on a corner lot and how the house was built by the previous owners, that it's not a rundown RV. It's a very nice RV. It's not a broken down hunk of junk of a truck or car whatsoever. So I don't see, it's not devaluing anybody's property. You're just sitting there right now. And it's not in anybody's way. I mean, I could put it down the easement towards that telephone pole, just like the guy on Hoya who has it. And it's not behind fence. It's sitting on the easement. And I can do that. I can put some gravel down. But you told me it has to be on a hard top, which that one is not on Hoya. It's not on gravel, it's on grass. So that doesn't make, I don't see any difference on that compared to his. I don't see any difference of the one that's across the street from my neighbors. You can see it from the road, which is just as far as mine on my driveway. I think there is some discrimination on that, on a lot of people that has the RV in the neighborhood that I've seen. Like you said, cannot be behind gates in front of the house. I've seen it. That RV has not moved in 45 days, and it's still parked in the same place behind the gates in front of the house. So if I put gates in around the house and put it in front of my house, am I in violation because that other person is not? So as long as you keep your place clean and presentable, I can see that. But I cannot see I'm being considered, it's wrong because I'm on a corner lot. Just because it's not between two houses.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Ms. Elliott?
I do have a question. Just looking at the pictures that were provided in our backup, Ms. Elliott, it shows that the RV is parked there on the side garage, on that second set of
You're right,
garage.
that is not the main house garage.
Right. But I guess what I'm getting at, the picture shows the RV, and it shows like the RV's like connected, like you see some wires or like cable.
Tommy, what's those wires are? I don't.
Like, is it RV being used? Like,
Right now, it's not being used.
because it looks like it's been. Oh, okay. I
mean,
don't
since
have an
it-
RV, so I don't know.
I-
But like the expandable, like it looks like it's been expanded out, like.
It has expansions on it, like they closed up.
Okay, it just appears like it's being occupied, is what I'm,
No, it's not.
okay.
Nobody never
I guess,
occupied it.
I don't know details, but I guess when you have it at an RV storage facility, you still have to plug it in?
I would have to keep it warm when it froze or I winterize it.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Somewhere or another.
okay, it just appears like it's being, used, you know,
No, is it-
because it's connected and expanded.
That one, she's got a big propane tank sitting there heating hers, year round, so.
Anyone else have a question?
See, there's my easement, which we can park it just like the one on Hoya that's on grassy area, or we can put gravel and park it right there, just like the one on Hoya. There's no fence around it, no nothing.
But an easement is just that, okay? And according to our ordinances, you cannot park it on the grass or on grass, it has to be on a hard top. So
Right,
just so
right.
you know, and
Yeah,
I understand that you say there are others that are in violation. That's a separate issue. We're here because of the variance that you have submitted, a request for variance, okay? Did you want to say something?
Basically, I was wondering, what was the plan? How long do you plan for it to be there? Is it a short-term thing, or is it gonna be there ad nauseum? I'm sorry, what is the plan? Is it a short-term type situation, or?
As soon as he can get 1,000 miles on that engine, on his truck, then he can pull it. My truck, in that picture, is in front of this little tiny car right here. but I don't have a fifth wheeler hookup, and mine can't pull that. And he just got it out of shop.
Other thing, a point of clarification, probably more for yourself than anything else. Some parts of Garden Ridge don't have a homeowners association or anything like that to guide them through the good ordinances, right? So sometimes you ride down the streets and there's different rules for different areas of the city. A lot of the homes in the area are grandfathered in, okay? We have no control over what they do on their lot to a certain extent because they're grandfathered in. We can't, had that been on a driveway that was other than a hard top, and it was before the last ordinance, I can't remember the date of it, that would have been grandfathered in. We wouldn't be able to say anything about it. That's the first thing. I think that I sometimes have problems with the characterization by citizens that it's in the ordinance, so it's law. Having worked on the ordinances for the last 3.5 years, trying to get them pushed out, I don't think anything is law in there. We check with the attorneys and make sure we don't step on any laws, but their variances are put in the ordinance because there must be extenuating circumstances where people can apply for them. It seems like we always turn down ordinances, but there's a certain cascade of questions we go through before we say yes or no. And the reason we have that cascade is because there are extenuating circumstances. If you come before us for a variance, and it doesn't reach that cascade, your chances are minuscule, let's say, okay? Now, I don't know if that cascade is available on the website, so citizens know before they come, but we get variances all the time, and sometimes people are disappointed or not knowledgeable what it's all about. But we have our rules to follow before we say yes or no. Some of us follow them more strictly than others. That's the way it is. So I appreciate you coming. It's a good presentation. But if you look at the cascade, you may not make it, Ms. Elliott. That's basically what we're playing with. Nothing personal, and we share your and your neighbors' concerns about how things look and what you see across the street and all that kind of stuff. But we try to write in the ordinances things that give us some guidance, because sometimes we get stories that kind of pull at your heartstrings a little bit, and you say, wait a minute, what are we doing? But that's all I had to say to you.
Well, it was never informed by to my parents when they bought this house, because it was a state sale that we couldn't, if they decided they wanted a little RV to go pedal around because he was in the Navy for 35 years, they would have never known it. I never known it, that we couldn't have it.
Okay, Ms. Elliott.
It should be brought,
Okay, we appreciate everything, all your comments, but there are ordinances in our city. And so it is every resident's responsibility to know what's in those ordinances.
I had no clue.
Okay, well, now you do know that there are ordinances. And so I do have one question, just to make sure that I am clear. This RV does not belong to you.
No, it does not.
Okay, and so you, as the homeowner, are asking for a variance for a vehicle, an RV, that does not belong to you.
That is correct.
I don't see, number one, I don't see that happening. It does not belong to you.
Or
You are the
temporary till he
homeowner.
can get, because right now he's staying with me, because I've had break-ins in my house.
Okay.
Do my.
We cannot go along either with, I have to wait, because according to your application for variance, it does not say, I need a little time till his truck gets 1,000 miles or whatever. What you say is that that he's waiting. The military installations do not have vacancies at this time, and I'm sorry. What is your friend's name?
Tommy Best.
Okay, Mr. Best. That he cannot afford rental fees, and the RV is not facing the front yard. That's what you say here. Okay. As the previous commissioner who spoke mentioned, we do have a sheet of guidance, okay? And so it appears one of the items on our guidance sheet says, are the unique circumstances merely financial in nature? Which, based on the form that you submitted, I would have to answer yes.
Which he is a disabled vet, and yes, he can't afford it.
Okay, so that's financial in nature. So I would have to say the answer to that is yes. And our guidance on that item is you deny the variance, okay? There's another thing that, another one of the guidance questions is, were the unique circumstances created by the owner of the property? And I would have to say yes to that too. Does anyone disagree? Because you allowed him to park that vehicle there.
Which I thought there was no
Okay.
problem in doing so.
Okay, but again, now you have found out that is not the case. And so again, this guidance question says if we say yes to that, we deny the variance. The other thing that I think is very, very important is, and that we experienced at another meeting a couple of months ago, was the fact that we have got to remove emotion from our decision-making process, just like City Council does. Because if we were to do that, I mean, just because of his circumstances, if we were to allow this variance to pass, we would be setting, very possibly would be setting a precedent, which I don't think anyone in this city wants to set a precedent for allowing RVs to be parked on exterior yards or not following the ordinance. So just to let you know that, there's already 3 strikes. So I'm opening it up again to the commissioners to see if anybody else wants to weigh in or ask her a question for additional information.
I have a question
Sure.
for Nancy, if that's all right. What is the procedure? Let's say the variance is denied. Does she have a certain amount of time to remove it? Or do you know what she's been told? If it's denied.
If this is denied, of course, she will have to go through a public hearing with City Council sitting as the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
Also, there has been a citation that has been issued in municipal court.
Okay.
So the outcome of this request will have to be reported to the court.
Okay. I guess my question was, what I'm hearing from her is you just need time to move it.
Yes, I need time to
Okay.
move it. So he can get 1,000 miles on that engine without blowing it up or overheating or,
I understand. I know some people can put 1,000 miles on a vehicle in 3 days or 2 days. Some people it would take 2 years. So,
well,
do you have I know you can't.
he's 79 years old.
I understand. I think everybody in the city wants to see a positive resolution. And I'd love to just find out an idea of when we can possibly move it, because it sounds like you all want to move it, you just are waiting for that mileage. Maybe there's somebody that can move it for you, or...
I can't do it.
I know you can't. I know you can't do it. Or a service that can do it, I'm not sure.
I know, I can't afford it, and he can't afford it.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
I do have some comments. You know, I just want to make a point. You know, our current ordinance has those requirements, and even in our draft ordinance, I just want to make mention that that is not changing in our draft ordinance that we hope to approve here soon this year. So that's not even changing as well. So in light of that, I wanted to make sure we stay consistent on the ordinance, and I understand the financial constraints, but as I reviewed, going through our inquiry, our questions that we have, I mean, I know our chair mentioned that she mentioned 3, and all it takes is just 1. And I went through the whole question, and I came up with 6. So that to deny the variance. So it's just like Ms. Diaz mentioned, this will set a precedence in the future with other variances, and that's something that we want to stay consistent here in the city. So that's all my comments I wanted to make mention. Leave it open up to my other commissioners.
Okay. Anyone else want to make a comment?
Miss Ellie, my wife and I drove by your place at least 6 times after we got this packet, looking at that, trying to figure out exactly what this was. And finally I went to Google Earth and looked at it from top down, and the problem is it really does face the highway. I mean, it is actually out in front. It's because you have a
Corner lot.
A corner lot. And, people in a cul-de-sac, they have a problem too, but there's pluses and minuses with having a cul-de-sac. You got a big backyard, but it's hard to get into it if you're at the end of it. And it's just, and our ordinance is, in my opinion, a little bit subjective, and I've proposed a change to that to where it will not be. But you are still outside of the variance.
So if I put gravel or hardtop on the easement and put a fence around
You
it,
would be on the easement is the problem.
that'd be even though it'd be behind gates. You can't see it.
I don't know.
My understanding is that an easement doesn't really, that piece of land doesn't really belong to you to do things with. It's an easement either for utilities of some sort or.
Well, it's still on my property. I mean, it's, what the property line is up to my neighbor's fence. That is the property by what the plans of the house.
Okay.
The stake is there, right there at the driveway, on the grassy area, all the way down to my other neighbor's wired fence. Whoops.
I personally don't see how, and with our sheet, I found 3 where it says deny, and I just don't see how we can get around that. I mean, I don't see it.
That's what I was asking. I mean, if I go ahead and put that on as a hardtop or gravel and put a fence around it and put a lock key on it, he can't see it. The street can't see it.
That's an expense.
That's expense.
Okay, so maybe you should find a place to move the trailer to. If you would spend that kind of money to go through all that, which I don't even think is the answer, maybe you can help him out in that regard. The problem is too that the RV does not belong to you. You are the property owner asking for a variance for something that doesn't belong to you. So, and I
I'm
have
trying to
an issue
help
with
out
that.
a disabled vet, what I'm trying to do.
We can't allow the easements to be blocked, okay? The other, what I also want to mention is we cannot negotiate the variance request. We must address, the commission must address the request that is before them.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Ms. Elliott, appreciate it. If the commission has no further comments, I need a motion And again, I just want to reiterate that based on what things that the commissioners have said, there's at least a minimum of 3 reasons we must deny, and possibly more, because you said you found 5.
Right.
But, so I need a motion on this variance request.
I move that we deny the variance as requested by Ms. Elliott.
Do I hear a second? Second. I have a motion and a second to deny the variance request submitted by Brenda Elliott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand, please. Okay. So no one opposed, so it passes unanimously to go to City Council as a recommendation to deny the variance request. Thank you. To the next item on the agenda, which is to review the final plat for Pension Mark Office Center located approximately 440 feet southwest of the intersection of Nacogdoches Road, FM 2252, and Nacogdoches Loop, Old Nacogdoches Road. So I'm under the understanding that there was a revision to the plat just recently, so I'm going to ask Nancy to speak on that or turn it over to Mr. Etheridge, I believe.
The plat that you received in your packet has changed slightly. There was the sewer easement to service the wastewater going to the grinder pump area has been changed. The electrical easement that will service that has been removed because they are having to wait, the developer, are having to wait for CPS to locate the pole and the transformer. Once that is accomplished, then that easement will be done by meets and bounds, and that will be a formal recorded document that will be filed, that will go along with this plat, I'm sorry. And then the engineer noticed that a few easements for water and wastewater in what would be the area that would encompass phase 2 of this development had been removed. When they are ready to move into phase 2 of the development, they will have to replat so that those easements are recorded. And Mr. Etheridge is here to discuss further.
That's pretty much the...
Our city engineer has reviewed this, and he is good with it as it is now, under those conditions of the meets and bounds easement for the electrical and the replatting for the wastewater and water easements when phase 2 development begins. Is that good?
That's good.
Got it? Okay. I wanted to make sure.
I'm glad I'm here to explain. You got everything perfect. Any questions?
So I'm trying to understand what, you haven't said a whole lot. I'm just trying to understand what the city administrator is saying. So is this the first property that we may have to make changes on? So we're learning from this property, we're going to have to
No, I don't think this will be the first property that, not that we're learning from it. This development is going to be phased.
Okay.
Okay? I don't know what stimulated the change in the electrical easement, other than the movement of the grinder pump to behind the building in Phase 1 rather than it being in the front of this building, correct?
So the CPS easement was removed because typically they're not put in a final plat or a platting process, and they're added after CPS installs it, wherever they want to install it, and then you offset the center line of their installed line above ground or underground, and they're given an easement around it, and it's given to them in meets and bounds. And for the relocation of the water pump and, or not the water pump, the water meters and the grinder pump from the front to the back of the building, that was just a change in where the service was entering the building. Instead of having to route the lines around the building, we just moved the locations of the easement to the back.
So what I'm hearing is the hard infrastructure was all right, and it was changes that you, as a developer, made that necessitated coming back to us with the changes.
Yes.
Okay.
The easements are still there, they're just not in the same place as what they were, except for the CPS easement, the electrical.
But with future replatting of the plat as they move into Phase 2, all of the easements, including the one that will be done by meets and bounds, can be included and will be included in that replat. So in time, you will see this plat come back before you as a replat.
I do have a question, Nancy, I see in the backup, there's letters from CPS Energy, Southwestern Bell, and Spectrum. Is there one that's going to be from the city of Garden Ridge? Or I guess
We typically have not, because we do
in-house?
in-house
Okay.
review.
Okay. And those are the only utilities that are?
Yes.
Okay. Because I see like the CPS Energy, it doesn't mention about a Phase 1 or Phase 2 on the letter. I know it's just, I'm assuming this letter's referencing the Phase 1.
The letter would be for the entire
The entire property?
site. What
The
will
entire
happen is
site.
the Phase 1 construction on the CPS will service the Phase 2 as well.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
And Nancy, you mentioned that our city engineer has reviewed this latest plat.
Yes, he reviewed it yesterday evening and this morning.
Okay. And he's okay with the
Yes.
changes?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Etheridge? No? Okay, then I need a motion on approving the submission of this to the Pension Mark Office Center plat as submitted to us today to City Council.
Make a motion to approve the final plat for Pension Mark Office Center.
It's not the final plat, though, right?
This is the final
Oh,
plat.
this is the final one? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I'm just, unless the caption. You good? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's approval of the final, or motion to approve the final plat for Pension Mark Office Center.
Approved to recommend to City
To
Council.
recommend to City Council.
So I have a motion and a second to forward to City Council an approval recommendation for the plat that we have before us. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so none opposed. Thank you very much, Mr. Etheridge. This will go to City Council.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 5E, Ordinance 210, 11-2021, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, adopting board and commission policies and procedures, providing a cumulative and savings clause, providing for severability, and declaring an effective date. On today's agenda, we need to approve the resignation of Commissioner Jesse Deaver. Unfortunate, but he had several work commitments that changed after he got on the commission. And so now he is not going to be able to attend meetings on the second Tuesday of the month. Therefore, I know you guys read this, so can I have a motion to accept his resignation?
I move to accept his resignation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve Jesse Deaver's submission for resignation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, none opposed. Thank you very much, and we will miss his insight, and we wish him well on his work endeavors. We did tell him, though, if when he retired or things changed, we would entertain him getting back on the commission. All right. The next item,
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Is this the appropriate place to talk about ordinance 210? It doesn't come up again on the agenda.
no, this is a place for 210.
Okay.
Did you,
No, I wanted to say, I wanted to thank City Council for forwarding this to us, especially Councilman Valdez for working on and others working on the changes, because it was much needed, as we found out over the years. And I want to put it in the record that I, for one, appreciate the changes.
thank you. Okay, any other comments on 210? No? Okay, we'll move on to item F, draft zoning ordinance and master land use plan. First of all, this is where we would have had Bryce Cox come and review the changes, revisions that were discussed at the technical meeting in late December. And unfortunately, Mr. Cox is not able to be here this evening. And so we do have one item that was submitted by Commissioner Leatherberry, had a moment there, Leatherberry, and I would imagine this is where we can talk about this right now. Okay, so Colonel, would you like to go over this?
Yes. When we were driving around looking at Miss Elliott's property, it became painfully clear that every piece of property doesn't exactly fit our little diagram of what is and what isn't, and what is an interior and what's an exterior, and is this facing the road, is it flat? And I went back and I read the ordinance that's current, and I thought, well, that's very subjective in my opinion. And then I read the draft, and it said exactly the same thing. And I thought, okay, we're going to have this problem again if we don't fix it. We ought to get somebody smarter than me to do it. And then I thought, well, maybe I ought to just do it. So this is what I propose. No person shall store house trailers, semi-trailer, boats, boat trailers, motor homes, campers, or utilities of any type in the front yard, or any portion of the driveway within the front yard, or the exterior side yards, if the garages / driveways are located on the exterior side. None of the above will be stored in the front of the garage or on the exterior side yard driveway. Property owners and tenants may only use the rear or interior side yards to store these classes of vehicles, boats, and trailers. None of the above will be stored beyond the yard line on the front or exterior side yards. Now, if the ordinance said that, we wouldn't have had anybody here tonight. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, so thank you for your work on this. And what we can do is now that you have the copy, if you have any questions for Commissioner Leatherberry, you can ask. The other thing is, once we finish discussing this, I would say let's add this to our packet for discussion on the ordinance changes, if that's okay. Do you have any questions for Commissioner Leatherberry?
Just our packet, Madam Chair, or does the technical committee get a shot at it before we get a shot at it?
It will be presented, I'm going to take this a little further in a minute.
Okay.
And it can be discussed when we discuss the changes that Bryce had suggested. So, now we deviate a little bit, but please look this over. And if you have any questions, and we can discuss them at the next go-round of this. But this was probably very much needed. Thank you very much. So, because Mr. Cox was not able to be here this evening, it puts a little bit of a kink in our time frame. So what I'd like to propose is that we very possibly schedule a special meeting, okay? And the problem with the special meeting is we cannot have any commissioner absent. There's 5 of us. All 5 of us would need to be here, okay? I checked with staff, and we looked at the date of January 20th in the evening, which is a Thursday. It's actually next Thursday, I believe. Yeah, a week from this Thursday. So if you have your calendars, if you could please look at them and see if right now that date would work for you. It would be a special meeting at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I need to kind of know whether or not your calendars would work on that date. You don't have your calendar?
I'm a dinosaur. I think I have some on the 20th, but it's not in the evening, so it should be all right.
Okay. On my right?
Yeah,
Okay, so
Should
here's
be-
the thing.
should be good.
All right, so I need your best commitment right now, understanding that if somebody gets sick or something, then that's something we cannot avoid, then it would just cancel everything. So if the commission is able to make a meeting at 6 o'clock on the evening of January 20th, the next step would be for staff to check with Mr. Cox to see if he is available on that date.
I talked to him, he is available.
Perfect. Okay, so then we will go forward with the, do we need to vote on this?
No.
Having a special meeting now? Okay. So since Mr. Cox is available and all of us are available, hopefully, I mean, in our, our best assessment right now, then we will, Marissa will actually work on the agenda to put out probably by Friday of this week so that we can hopefully stay on track. And I think the only topic on this meeting would be reviewing the changes that Bryce submitted to the technical committee. And we thought it best for him to review it because none of us wanted to get out there and possibly make an error, and then we'd have another problem. So we'll put it down for the 20th. Please mark your calendars, and then Marissa will send out the agenda. The good thing about having that special meeting and hopefully discussing it all and for the commission to review and hopefully approve his suggestions, it would allow us at our February 8th meeting to have a public hearing and then continue with the schedule to get it to city council in March. Right. So that's correct, right? Because we're meeting after council meeting in February. So are there any questions? Did I get it right, Marissa?
Yes, I would say March would obviously be the earliest. It could go to council. I don't know if everyone on the commission is aware that another public hearing has to be conducted by the commission, so that might have been a surprise for y'all to hear. But since the changes have been so significant since the last time we had a public hearing, we do have to conduct another one, but the notice requirements are a little more lenient. However, when we get to city council, we will have to do the postcard mailing again, the publishing in the newspaper. So looking at the calendar, if everything goes well with planning and zoning at the special meeting and at y'all's February meeting, there may not be enough time for all of that to happen before March city council meeting. So then it would be pushed to April, just because the way that February is a short month, unfortunately. And we have to send those notices out certain days in advance. We have to send things to the paper, which I think the paper wouldn't be an issue. I think it's the mailing of the postcards that would be our problem, because we only have 2 weeks in between planning and zoning and city council. I don't think that'll work.
I think to be on the safe side, you could present your recommendation to council in March if you are at that point, and then their public hearing would be in April. I would rather caution on the safe side so that we don't have a problem with our our required schedule that we have to follow.
And then the only thing I will add is I will be posting the agenda for the special meeting. I'll have to post it this Friday because Monday's a holiday, and Monday would be the 72-hour deadline. So if something does come up with anybody's schedule in between now and the end of this week that you're aware of, please let me know immediately so I can let everybody else know and not necessarily spend the time on creating the agenda. Otherwise, we'll move forward.
Thank you very much, Marissa. Okay, so everyone has their marching orders, and please be on the lookout for the agenda that she would send out on Friday. And again, if something happens to come up or that you know is going to interfere with the meeting on the 20th, it's imperative that you advise us. Okay, thank you. And that's why, Colonel, I said that we would discuss this when we're talking about the changes. And this gives Bryce a little time, too, to look at it, and possibly Cynthia. So, but thank you. We really appreciate this. This has always been a little confusing, but
It's not a little confusing, it's real.
it's a lot confusing. Thank you.
Thank you for taking a stab at that. That's good. Hopefully it'll clarify.
Okay, moving on to item G. Do we have, do any of the commissioners have any future agenda items? No?
I think we need to have a farewell party for Ordinance 210. We've talked about it for the last 3 or 4 years, and I'm hopeful, yeah, and I'm thinking that, this is, finally, we got some of the things ironed out. And so I'm thinking of some kind of just acknowledgement that 210 is finally finished.
So you're inviting us to your home?
It will take about as much time as it took to get the changes in 210.
Okay. All right, so moving on to G2 then. The next scheduled meeting, not the special meeting, the next scheduled meeting for Planning and Zoning would be February 8th, 6 p.m. And I take it that all of you already put it on your calendars for January 20th. Very good. Okay, all right. I don't know if any of the 3 citizens that are left in the audience would like to speak? No? Okay, then we will not worry about the second citizens' comment period. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn our meeting at that clock up there is not working, and neither is my watch for some reason, at 7:04. We stand adjourned. Thank you. Oh, yeah, okay, very good. I was like, my watch isn't working.